your crew, you can let them know. We in town, they should dress up for the show. We are bringing down this town tonight, oh. In an African party, we stomp our feet on the ground. We raise our hands in the air and say, hey, hey, hey. Ruka, leo hatulali jo. Dunda, asubuhi mpaka kesho jo. Washanare mademu na machali tu. Usijali hali mikono juu. Ruka, leo hatulali jo. Dunda, asubuhi mpaka kesho jo. Washanare mademu na machali tu. Usijali hali mikono juu.
Imagine, hivyo ndo muingianga kwa klabu au jasikia tunakula life na adabu na masela sela. Wana hela hela umenijazka hiu mase hela hela ni jui basi tela ni king kaka king of Zamunda. Tuko ndani na tumedunga kaka clothing bado mtumba. Mina manager tuko tight anajua mini spend thrift. Meza drinks nimezipanga kama Tetris.
In an African party, we stomp our feet on the ground. We raise our hands in the air and say, hey, hey, hey. Ruka, leo hatulali jo. Dunda, asubuhi mpaka kesho jo. Washanare mademu na machali tu. Usijali hali mikono juu. Ruka, leo hatulali jo. Dunda, asubuhi mpaka kesho jo. Washanare mademu na machali tu. Usijali hali mikono juu.
Boo, check it, yo, I go like boom, 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 boom. Mikono kwa hewa nikifika tu kwa boom, 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 boom.
Oh na 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 na, oh ay vera. Sifcon music. Seeking attention, searching for affection. I'm seeking attention, searching for affection. I'm seeking attention, searching for affection. Seeking attention, searching for affection. I want to leave this place, 'cause I'm looking for my homeland. Nimechoka kukaa hapa. Nataka mabawa nipae, 'cause I want to go. Nataka kwenda home. I found I'm always seeking attention. I found I'm always seeking love. Ego overrides me and blinds me. I found I'm always seeking attention, searching for affection. I'm seeking attention, searching for affection. I'm seeking attention, searching for affection. Seeking attention, searching for affection. Now that I've seen this face, now I recognize the culture. Ningependa kukaa hapa, ili vita nishinde before I go. Kabla niende I found I'm always seeking clarity. I found I'm always seeking the truth. Lust is always following and hunting me. I found I'm always seeking attention, searching for affection. I'm seeking attention, searching for affection. I'm seeking attention, searching for affection. Seeking attention, searching for affection.
Nalipa tax na hata siwezi afford kupanda taxi. Kwa banki sina kakitu, siwezi afford hata shati. Maji nanywa ya kanjo yako ya chupa za mapambo. Nalipia mtoto wako elimu ya bure ya juu. Unanipa ya bure lakini ya udu. Oh no. Nitapata wapi majibu ya maswali? Mahindi ilienda wapi? Pia shilingi ya shule za msingi. Paulo mtume, mbona tena usimtume? Lazima abuniwe tume. Lazima abuniwe tume. Mapenzi ndizo hali mapasani tulificha kwa kabati. Kazi kwa vijana, pesa kwa wazee. Tulimangamanga mpaka za maded aise. Lazima abuniwe tume. Lazima abuniwe tume. Sheria. 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 Fuata. Sheria. Sheria.
Well, a good afternoon to you. This is Sheria Dive on Power Radio. My name is Jameson Jerry, and Sheria Dive is simply a show where we dive into the intricacies of what's happening in the legal sphere in Kenya. And today we have an interesting discussion coming up based on a decision of the High Court that was made recently touching on employment of people to the public sector. But as you know, we are on the sidelines of the People Dialogue Festival 2024 at the University of Nairobi Graduation Square. So if you listen to this and you'd like to just come and be part of this, why don't you come to the University of Nairobi as we talk about the People Dialogue Festival, and we'll be touching on this a bit later in the show. But of course, for today, if you haven't heard this, the High Court of Kenya recently, I'm just looking at the judgment before me here, Justice William Musyoka of the High Court of Kenya, sitting in Busia, made a decision on the 1st of March 2024 that is a very, very serious decision which I'd like us to look at today. Now, just for a brief background, on 1st June 2023, a recruitment exercise was conducted by the Kenya Revenue Authority in which they wanted to hire 1,406 revenue service assistants. Now, out of this group, they hired 614 female and 792 male. But the real issue here is that it turned out that 785 out of the 1,406, which represented 55.8% of the recruitment, came from 2 communities in Kenya, while the rest, being 621, represented 44.2%, and they came from the rest of the Kenyan population, or rather the Kenyan communities. So the question before the court was, based on the distribution of these recruitments and the people who've come in, is it constitutional for the Kenya Revenue Authority, which is a public authority funded by taxpayers' money, is it constitutional for them to hire from 2 communities and get 55.8%? This is more than half of the people who are recruited were from 2 communities, being, of course, the Kikuyu and the Kalenjin communities. This has been touched on in the petition before the court. So one Peter Kabingo Orogo went to court to challenge that. And today, as we talk about the People Dialogue Festival, one of the things that the Constitution of Kenya guarantees is that you and I will live in a country where there's proper representation and where certain values are adhered to with respect to how we hire people to work in the public service and to how opportunities are spread out and represented. So perhaps the first question to ask is this. If you are listening to us, you can tweet us at Power Radio. And for myself, you can just tag me at Millennial Lawyer on Twitter or X. Is it fair and is it justifiable, in your opinion, that the government of Kenya, through the Kenya Revenue Authority, hired 55.8% of the people recruited were from 2 communities, and 44%, which is the balance of the positions, went out to the rest of the communities in Kenya? That's the conversation we're having today. So please, just give us your thoughts as I take us through this petition. And remember what we've said about Sheria Dive. Things are happening in this country. You may not know how they affect you, but they will affect you nevertheless. So the purpose of this show is just to get us to understand what are Kenya's laws and how do those laws apply to us. And you and I, as citizens of this country, do we have a role to play in ensuring that the Constitution of Kenya is upheld and that at all times, government agencies, the government, and even private individuals, they carry out their decision-making in line with the provisions of the Constitution of Kenya. So I'm going to be getting a song now coming up, but please share your thoughts as I take us through this judgment from the High Court of Kenya in Busia. This is Sheria Drive.
Power Radio. And Power Up.
Total man.
Mavo on the beat.
Nikiwa mtoto bakauliza nikigrow up nitabi what? Nikiwa mtoto bakauliza nikigrow up nitabi what? Total man.
man. I'm what the shinda in a fair game. Bigger issue than ku complain kupea fair game. Walitupa mael kabla shika maem. Tulipiti ya hell healing shika hem. Kufika easy heights hawezi ku Everest. Only God is above me. Na pia cost of living. Yes, naitanga Nairobics. Venye haso zinagonga mawe. Najua blue tick. Na hapo ndio na colors. Wewe ni manailos na mabantu. Lakini venye wanavuta tunawaita Kushites. Nikiwa mtoto bakauliza nikigrow up nitabi what? Nikiwa mtoto bakauliza nikigrow up nitabi what? Total man. Total man. Total man. Simanishi distance nikitaja mita. Niki pull up hambogi match. Increase content ya pori. Nita flourish bila just challenge TikTok. Kucross dress social. Vixen kutingisha kwa vida. Na moshi zala. Tell us more than mangapi umegwara. Mtaratara lifestyles ya branch na tala. Siduju na dudia. Soja tutanyuria. Ukiwa next na kaburi. Ni future unachungulia. Nikiwa mtoto bakauliza nikigrow up nitabi what? Nikiwa mtoto bakauliza nikigrow up nitabi what? Total man. Total man. Total man. Total man. Total man. Total man. Vegas wanajua stake is high. Vacation white beach Hawaii. Mistakes zako zinakuwa chai. LOL banta za TL. Uchi to Gucci. Nivo kwa mapato ranking. 1 minute weni mwanaume ya kutishi. The next unazuyo another buildings Kepinski. Ruma zimechacha. Umechapa ama unachapa. Pesa onge ama pesa ionge. The three wise men wananifuata ndio wa meet Christ. Nikiwa mtoto bakauliza nikigrow up nitabi what? Nikiwa mtoto bakauliza nikigrow up nitabi what? Total man. Total man. Total man. Total man. Total man. Total man. Nikiwa mtoto bakauliza nikigrow up nitabi what? Nikiwa mtoto bakauliza nikigrow up nitabi what? Total man, total man, total man, total man, total man, total man.
From sunrise to sunset, all day and night. Power Radio.
You're hearing this at
After kutupitisha machungu 5 years ago, wamerudi tena na promises tamu tamu, kakuchocha sukari na kopa. Sai Kenya imejaa deni, hata kwa mama mboga huwezi kopa.
Kwenye natoka kuna mandenga mafedi kudai pay, hadi na life kupanda bay, ngori kwa busy ya daily. 10 millionaires, 10 million beggars kweli. Revolution ili delay, weka ngumi pale hewani. Tuna anthem kachwani, boresha hali kwani. Wakipromote makali, makat na bangi. Tuna quote Wangari, Mahatma Gandhi. Mikono ya serikali, refu sijui gani ni gani.
Mikono wa serikali, mkono wa serikali, mkono wa serikali, hiyo ndio serikali.
Betrayal in the city, kwa giza kunanuka jasho ya maiti. Judas amefufuka kwa season 2 ya kuleta busu, but hii haikuhusu. Juu yali prefer handshake, mpaka economy wameishake. tunakula maisha na salad. Daktari alidai nisikule chakula kibanda, nilimsho nimenona jua kukula nutrients za hongo. Nimechukua tende iko bongo, na mkinifuata huko nitauzia mpaka akili zenu kwa ubongo.
Shake psycho fans, greetings in quotes ndio topic ya symposium. Infected handshake tuiweke quarantine, hata kani kuijengea aquarium. Gava bila watchdog wako ni good time sahi. Fani sana kasa maki kuhisi kiu. Sahi wana go overboard na sugar mami. Wameka mercury kwa sugar tunalia mami. Handshake imefanya tumebaki kuulizia press ya pillowcase after jurisdiction, but tumezoea bro.
Mkono wa serikali, yeah. Mkono wa serikali, yeah. Mkono wa serikali, yeah. Hiyo ndio serikali, yeah. Mkono wa serikali, yeah. Mkono wa serikali, yeah. Mkono wa serikali, yeah. Hiyo ndio serikali, yeah.
Soundtracks accept and move on, but what happens to the dead souls? Unity kwa wengine, disunity kwa wengine. Tumefocus nao sana tukasahau we are the main victims in this written script. All they care about is their ambitions. We mean nothing to them, so listen. Baba si mama, baba si mama. Mama ananyokwa kinyozi, so daily nitamuita baba. Wewe ndio unaijua shida mnazopitia. Listen, my silence is so loud. I'm saying everything but saying nothing at all.
Mkono wa serikali, yeah. Hiyo ndio serikali, yeah.
Fantastic. That is Sirikali by Rebian, Jublak, Genesco, and Wilinjo. And of course, before that was Total Man by Giuliani. Now, today we're talking about the High Court judgment where the Kenya Revenue Authority's recruitment of about 1,406 Kenyans to the position of Revenue Service Assistants has been set aside by the High Court. Now, why has this happened? The first thing is, according to the petitioner who went to court, they say that Thika Town constituency and Kiharu constituency got 50 and 40 slots each, all right? Now, this is relevant because of something I'm going to be saying shortly. Thika Town with 50 slots, which means that 50 people were actually appointed to these positions, recruited to the positions, and Kiharu got 40 people. This number was higher than Busia County, which had 13 slots. Kisii County had 19 slots, and Makueni County had 15 slots, which means that Busia County, Kisii County, and Makueni County combined had less people being recruited by KRA as compared to Thika Town constituency. I mean, we're not even talking about a county. We're talking about a constituency, one constituency. Now, of course, the argument here is not only have you had a spread of the candidates, you know, mainly being concentrated from these two constituencies, but also in terms of, you know, the tribal representation, 55% of these people were actually Kikuyus and Kalenjins. And I mean, we can say that because this is what was in the law when the matter went to court. But the other thing as well is this. When KRA put out the advertisements, one of the requirements was that the age of the applicants would be capped at 28 years of age. And this was also another beef that the petitioner had, because his argument was, in Kenya, the definition of a youth under Article 260 of the Constitution of Kenya is anyone between the ages of 18 to 35. So why are you capping it at 28? What happens to the people who are between the age of 28 and 35 who should have gotten, you know, these positions? Now, KRA in its response says that, number one, we actually received an overwhelming number of applications that we were forced to do something we call an aptitude test, just to determine who goes through to the next round. And the argument is, the reason why Kikuyus and Kalenjins are making up 55% of the recruits is because under the aptitude test, they had the highest scores. So we only dealt with people who had the highest scores. Now, this is what in law we call a merit-based argument. where basically they are saying we carried this recruitment on merit. The best were picked. The question of which tribe you're from, which county you're from, that was secondary. Our main thing and our main consideration was the fact that did you pass the aptitude test? Now, 127,117 people applied for these positions. And KRA says the highest number, being 46,524, were actually from the two communities. So, I mean, our hands were tied there. The argument by the petitioner, of course, going to court, is that there is a clear breach of the provisions of the Constitution because, of course, you will know, if you're familiar with the Constitution of Kenya, that there is a requirement under the Kenyan Constitution, and I'll be touching on this, that when recruitment is done to public office, there has to be proper representation. And also based on Kenya's history, we'll also have historically marginalized communities getting access. So the idea is that when you look at the face of the civil service or public appointment, you need to be able to see the face of Kenya. That it will not just be because some person in Teso, your community is small, we're not giving you the opportunity. That is what the court was simply dealing with here. And I've asked this question for you, even as we get to really what the court was saying. Do you feel that it's fair that in this country you would have a situation where advertisements are sent out to fill a position, and 55% of those positions go to two communities, and the rest of the about 44 communities have to fight over the 44%. Now, one of the arguments that was made by the petitioner was that the numbers make no sense because if you look at the distribution of the two communities in Kenya, they have a total distribution of 32%. If you take the Kikuyu and the Kalenjins and you put them together and you look at the last census we had, their numbers only come to 32%. So why is it that they were 55% of that? The other argument, of course, that comes in was that on the part of the KRA, they say the two communities got higher slots since they had the highest number of applicants. But the court says that, come on, based on the statistics that have been presented here and based on the data that has been presented, that makes zero sense. And the court refused to agree with this. Now, if you remember the genesis of us getting the new constitution, of course, there was agitation in the 90s for a change of the constitution. The constitution that was there previously had been completely mutilated by the political class, had gone through so many amendments. In 2007, 2008, after the election and the results which were contested, Kenyans fought in the streets, and there was death of hundreds of Kenyans because of the contested presidential election results. And one of the outcomes under the peace accord was that Kenya would get a new constitution. Now, in that constitution, it was the wish of Kenyans that issues around ethnic diversity and regional balance in the allocation and distribution of resources, including employment opportunities in the public sector, would be looked at. And the Constitution, if you look at the preamble of Kenya's Constitution, it talks about honoring the struggle to bring about freedom and justice to the land. That as a country and as a people, we are proud of the ethnic, cultural, and religious diversity that we have. We are determined to coexist in peace and unity as one indivisible nation. That we are all about nurturing and protecting the well-being of communities and the nation, and we recognize the aspiration of all Kenyans for a government based on human rights, equality, freedom, democracy, social justice, and the rule of law. From the preamble of the Constitution, it's quite clear that as a country, Kenya, we believe in justice and we believe in diversity, coexistence, peace, unity. These are aspirations that we have. And so the court was being invited to ask, should merit supersede the constitutional requirement for you to ensure that there's proper representation in government and even in the appointment of people to government office? We're going to be dealing with that next. But for now, let's get some music right here. Remember, this is Power Radio Sheria Dive, where we talk about legal issues.
Power Radio.
Track inanichangamsha na vile nilikuwa nimechoka. Nimechoka na kutoa kitu kidogo. Ikitatao karancha dosh kama mbao kasi tatao kitu kidogo. Story kidogo. Nasema nini story kidogo. Talala ndani story kidogo. Niambele sajo. Nimechoka na kutoa hongo story kidogo. Nasema nini story kidogo. Talala ndani story kidogo. Niambele sajo. Nimechoka na kila wii anadai corruption ni blanda. Hata makarau lakini bado wananihanda. Napatana nao usiku nkitoka job kwa njia ka sina mia hawezi nihurumia. Wanza kitanae putoa kipande Maze Joe uskini lisa wafande. Okay, sasa itabidi umelala naye. Pana najua right zangu yo sikubali. Eti una right minaona una wrong. Akanipiga kibao karivasi ndani yao. Kweka ima wako Mariamu inaniongelesha nadhani we ni nyanyangu. Si hivyo nimefikisha 18 tujuzi. Napata ID tafa shunelo kuna upuzi. Ina go down slow down. Sielewi yo nungaza kuongea ganje. Story kidogo. Nasema nini story kidogo. Talala ndani story kidogo. Niambele sajo. Nimechoka na kutoa hongo story kidogo. Nasema nini story kidogo. Talala ndani story kidogo. Niambele sajo. Nimechoka na kutoa hongo. Tumechezana watu ka 15 kwa hiyo pick up. Kila store wakosi watu wa kupick up. Kaa huna ganji beba yeye. Nikani ma3 beba yeye. Wote wanabonga juu ya thugi anaitwa Onyi. Nasikia huko ndani yendo fast body. Wanuliza karao Onyi hayuko. Hamna bahati nyangao Onyi hilo. Nikaa kila mtu hapo anatupa mbao. Wanachilia wakibrai karao na mathao. Kabaki solo sana elekea ndani bana. Nimefika nyumbani shula. Ananiandikia sina ID kwa kitabu ya OB. Kisha anaongezea drunk and disorderly. Anakubali amekosa lakini eti ana raba. Neza kutokenunua raba 700. Story kidogo. Nasema nini story kidogo. Talala ndani story kidogo. Niambele sajo. Nimechoka na kutoa hongo story kidogo. Nasema nini story kidogo. Talala ndani story kidogo. Niambele sajo. Nimechoka na kutoa hongo. Kuna nuka kacho watu wamelala kwa floor 444 hadi wana snow. Najisunda kando nipate kausingizi. Nasikia Onyi hapa na nyama mbichi. Kuna giza titi kuona si easy. Onyi anabonga ujapa chini kidhani yatanipiga hadi Nigeria na zusha. Mafaro wanashika wakana nishauni keti. Tunaanza kupiga story mpaka che kumbe jela siku bori. Napata mabeste ka 52 uko ndani. Mmoja mbakana ni ahidi job mtaani. Imepita kama mwaka tangu hiyo noma. Nilipata hiyo job inanilipa vinoma. Kwa Toyota Prado nasimamishwa na karao. Nacheka kama wenda saile na msho. Story kidogo. Nasema nini story kidogo. Talala ndani story kidogo. Niambele sajo. Nimechoka na kutoa hongo story kidogo. Nasema nini story kidogo. Talala ndani story kidogo. Niambele sajo. Nimechoka na kutoa hongo.
From sunrise to sunset, all day and night. Power Radio.
They're calling like a pass. Yeah. Youthman, inabonga na wewe. Youthman, inabonga na wewe. Tiwachonango. Youthman, tiwachonango. Youthman, kwa watoto, vijana na wazee, tuungane na upendo uendelee, tuwakilishe zetu rika na tupate maarifa cause kuna magic in love, magic in unity, magic ni mimi na wewe tukiwa bila chuki. Check amani na do, amani na ganji ni moja tukiwa na imani. Maendeleo yanahusu jamii, jameni, na tuko wengi tunafanya vitu plenty, tukiungana zitakuwa more amazing. Youthman inabonga na wewe. Yeah. Youthman inabonga na wewe. Tiwachonango. Youthman ina tiwachonango. Youthman ina ukabila na dini tatutengani. Noma yangu niko dini ya upendo. Nina malengo ya kubadili mienendo. Nikizitoka ni wanatukembani. Tunapatana mitabeli za kisana. Walitushika wakatupigisha nduru. Tukaungana tukapataga uhuru. Tuungane tushikane tupendane. We must unite as a people. Tuungane tushikane tupendane. We must unite as a people. Youthman inabonga na wewe. Youthman inabonga na wewe. Tiwachonango. Youthman ina tiwachonango. Youthman ina Youthman inabonga na wewe. Youthman inabonga na wewe. Tiwachonango. Youthman ina tiwachonango. Youthman ina
Your kind of music, all day, all night, right here on your only station, Power Radio.
Welcome back. That was Youthman by Miko Migrant. You know, one of the things I like about Power Radio is you'll probably hear music here that you've never heard anywhere else. You're all about representing the underground voice and the unheard voices on radio. And of course, before that was Sitoi Kitu Kidogo by Jim Watt, which really took me back. Must have been, was it high school? Or just after high school? Man, that's an old song. Anyway, today, this is Sheria Dive on Power Radio, and we're talking about the decision by the the High Court sitting in Busia, where the decision by the Kenya Revenue Authority to hire revenue assistants was challenged by a petitioner, and the court has passed a judgment setting aside that hiring. We're just trying to understand why. Is it that courts just like disagreeing with politicians and with government and with things happening in government? Is that it? Or is there actually a proper and valid reason for why these things are happening? And remember, the main issues for the petitioner was that, number one, there was no proper representation in terms of the tribes and regional representation. The second was that the age cutoff had been set at 28 years old, yet the youth in Kenya under Section 260 of the Constitution, Article 260, I apologize for that, is 18 to 35 years. So what happens to the people between 28 and 35? Is there justification for why two communities have taken 55% of the positions that were available at the Kenya Revenue Authority? Now, of course, the court goes into speaking about the constitutional values. In our constitution at Article 10, there are certain values that are there that should bind everyone. And by everyone, this means it binds parliament, it binds the executive, it binds the judiciary, it binds every public body. These are the values that lead us as a country. And we have patriotism, national unity, sharing and devolution of power, rule of law, democracy, participation of the people, human dignity, equity, social justice, inclusiveness, equality, human rights, non-discrimination, protection of the marginalized, good governance, integrity, transparency, and accountability, together with sustainable development. So the court begins by saying that all these national values, they bind everyone. But secondly, we do have a provision that touches on equality. Every person in Kenya has the right to have equal treatment. Under Article 27 of the Constitution, what the law says is that all persons are equal before the law and have a right to equal treatment and protection and the equal benefit of the law. Men and women are to be treated equally. There should be no discrimination based on race, sex, pregnancy, marital status, health status, ethnic or social origin, color, age, disability, religion, conscience, belief, culture, dress, language, or birth. And that article of the Constitution actually urges the state to take deliberate steps towards guaranteeing these rights, including having affirmative action programs and policies to accelerate their achievement. Now, under Article 56 of the Constitution, minorities and marginalized groups also get a mention and a proper mention because this article provides that the state is enjoined to put in place affirmative action programs tailored to ensure that minorities and marginalized groups participate in and are represented in governance and other spheres of life. They are to be provided with special opportunities for access to educational and economic fields, and they are provided special opportunities for access to employment, among others. Now, to determine what affirmative action is, you have then to go back to Article 260 of the Constitution, which means that if there are systemic things that have made it hard for particular groups to access opportunities, whether it's employment, whether it's economic, then you have to put in measures to ensure that you level the playing field for them and you give them a hand up. Now, Article 232 of the Constitution is clear, and this is what the court held. Article 232 of the Constitution is clear that adequate and equal opportunities for appointment, training, and advancement at all levels of the public service should be afforded to men and women, members of all the ethnic groups, and persons of disability. Now, of course, this sounds like a restatement of Article 27, and as we always say, if it's good, you've got to say it twice. Now, what the court has held in this case is that there would have been equal treatment of members of all the ethnic groups if the available positions by the Kenya Revenue Authority were shared out proportionately to the population dynamics at play in Kenya. A recruitment of 1,406 individuals in one exercise qualifies for mass employment. So even in mass employment, you have to ensure that it's proportional. 55% for a group, for two groups that make up 32%, is that proportional? The other argument, of course, that was made by the Kenya Revenue Authority is this was purely on merit. We put out an aptitude test, and the guys who came on top, this was the team. And fortunately or unfortunately, they belonged to two of these tribes. The court has held that the question of merit cannot actually override constitutional requirements. Of course, under Article 232, fair competition and merit as a basis of appointment and promotion is stated as a value in the public service. This is what the court says. What the respondents, which is the Kenya Revenue Authority, did not bring out is the fact that recruitments and appointments made on the basis of fair competition and merit are subject to representation of the diverse communities of Kenya and the equality principles, which would require consideration of members of all the ethnic groups in Kenya. Fair competition and merit as values do not stand on their own. They must be considered alongside those two other values, which bring into the matrix ethnic diversity and regional balance. A recruitment based purely or only on merit, to the total exclusion from consideration of ethnic diversity and regional balance, would violate or contravene Article 232. What is the court saying? To hire in the public service and to make it purely about merit, and then to close your eyes to the reality that there is ethnic representation, there is gender representation, then automatically whatever you've done is you've broken the law, and the court will not actually side with you in such an instance. When hiring in the public service, merit cannot be the only consideration that you have, and there is no reason why merit ranks higher, than issues of diversity and issues of regional balance. They all ought to be read together. In this case, what the court has said is that this is about justice in terms of when employing or making appointments, ensuring that there is representation of all diverse communities in Kenya. In the words of the court, this is about social justice, where all ethnic groups are considered and distribution of available opportunities is in a balanced manner between them. Now, the court held that in this case, where 1,406 revenue service assistants were hired by the Kenya Revenue Authority, the recruitment was not carried out in an exercise that accorded with the values and principles set out in the Constitution. To have two communities take up 55% of the slots, to have one constituency had more people appointed from that one constituency more than 5 other counties. You know, it's just ridiculous when you think about it, that you have one constituency which gives you, 50 people, and you have other constituencies which, when put together, they do not even get to that number 50. So for that reason, the court said, no, this doesn't work. You cannot have the same group of people coming from two communities making up 55%. In any case, had you brought that number lower to at least what number they have in the national census, then that would have made sense. The next thing I'm going to be talking about is the question of age discrimination, because remember what the KRA said is that to get this job, you have to be under 28. You have to be a graduate and under 28. And the justification was that the reason we are doing this is because we want this to be first-time employees. We don't want people who have been employed in other places, and we're just trying to get jobs to people who will probably be getting, this will be their first job in their career. What did the court say about this? Now, ladies and gentlemen, remember, as we said, we are at the People Dialogue Festival at University of Nairobi at the Graduation Square. So if you're around here, if you're in the Nairobi CBD, please pass by and make sure you pass by the Power Radio desk. We'll just be happy to get to meet you and to know you. Remember, you can tweet us on @PowerRadio, and you can tag me on @MillennialLawyer on Twitter. Let's get some music.
Power Radio. Tune in and power up.
Barua toka Jaramogi na Kenyatta, wanauliza kama Kenya kuko sawa. Nikawajibu Kenya tuko na disaster, watoto wetu wanazidi kuzikana. Na Tomboya ameshika tama, alituacha kama angali kijana. Je, angekuwa mambo yangekuwa sawa? Ndivyo walivyopanga Maulana. Deni mulizoacha bado tunalipa, na tumekopa zingine China. Tukajenga reli pia barabara, zilizobaki watu wakasanya. So tujiangalie, tuko pabaya leo kuliko jana. Sikio la kufa halisikii dawa, tuko kwa Twitter tunajibizana. Tujiangalie bade, tuko pabaya leo kuliko jana. Tusipoziba ufa tutajenga kuta, tusake zetu tungali vijana. Waumini kwa matrina, pasi kwa bima, kushoto fungu la 10 sadaka kulia. Ndio maana mbele ya kanisa mheshimiwa anakula sakramenti kabla ya raia. Siku za mwisho zimeshawadia, na revelation inatuambia hii generation inachoma picha. Ni generation yetu, so tujiangalie. Tuko pabaya leo kuliko jana. Sikio la kufa halisikii dawa, tuko kwa Twitter tunajibizana. Tujiangalie, tuko pabaya leo kuliko jana. Tusipoziba ufa tutajenga kuta, tusake zetu tungali vijana. Alisema tufungeni mikanda, ona leo twavuna tulichopanda. Kura zetu zilitugawanya, makabila na pesa pia tulimanga. So when you make your bed, usingizi gani tumelala? Tutajua tujui, Vision 2030 tabaki ni story. Tujiangalie, tuko pabaya leo kuliko jana. Sikio la kufa halisikii dawa, tuko kwa Twitter tunajibizana. Tujiangalie, tuko pabaya leo kuliko jana. Tusipoziba ufa tutajenga kuta, tusake zetu tungali vijana. Dosi alinia
Waliambianga freedom never comes for free. We vote tribe, I'm a real cash, ask Boni. Tuna Roma liamwezi tajesu plus dogi. Wal mzima Twitter keotindo fast body. Ban pictures in Africa, black coffee and none. I'm richer than my neighbor, but we're both in a slum. If the rich always win, why should the popular run? Unless democracy ni what's use them only for fun. Na hii weekend tuko church, tunauza sura kabisa. Post ya haga wenda poa sana na caption ya scripture. Kayo ndo gospel, pitisha bagi ya sadaka kwa club, yeah. Traffic madrag ubaendai, traffic mandai zina drag. Kwa maya mwizi amemake stories za shamba amegrab. Kono inahonga imevaa bracelet ya colors za flag, yeah.
Your kind of music, all day, all night, right here on your only station, Power Radio.
Agriculture, communication, entrepreneurship, investment, horticulture, exportation, leadership, development, poor planning, no facilities, shutdown, lockdown, no activities. You wanna see my creativity? Shut down Babylon primitivity. For the people, by the people, and with the people. Democracy, equality, justice, practice, integrity, people, power, potential, possibilities, power, people, possibilities, potential, people, power, potential, possibilities, power, people, possibilities, potential. Mitazi na sauti isipokuwa risasi, wezi wa suti kulipiza kisasi. Ala, uchungu ya uzazi have mercy. Uchumi, huzuni, uchumi duni, si utani samahani vijijini mitaani. Masista, mamista, society, anxiety, methali, mafumbo, tafsiri, mashairi na kariri kwa akili. Jamani, jangwani. Hey, na rap culture kishua. Mabling kuhang vitu chini ya pua. Hatua baada hatua, chini ya jua kuna mpya si unajua. People, power. People, power, potential, possibilities, power. People, possibilities, potential. People, power, potential, possibilities, power. People, possibilities, potential, people, power, potential, possibilities, power, people, possibilities, potential, people, power, potential, possibilities, power, people, possibilities, potential. Si kwa traffic, daily ni congestion. Si wanafiki wanataka divide nation. Si mashabiki wako radhi kila occasion. Umesoma ukahitimu zero job the occupation. Crazy, kiwa si better than prevention. Rumors za war, kuna blood, kuna tension. We want peace and education. Transport is better health accommodation.
Your kind of music, all day, all night, right here on your only station, Power Radio.
Good evening, welcome to Power Radio. My name is Jameson Jerry and I am your host on this Sheria Dive, where we take a deep dive into issues of law, legal matters and understanding how does the law impact your life. Now, we had People Power by KGZ Heavyweight, and before that we had Tujiangalia by Sauti Sol and Yashinsky. I think those are perfect songs for the show we're having today. Now, we're discussing the decision by the High Court of Kenya sitting in Busia, where the recruitment of 1,406 revenue service assistants by the Kenya Revenue Authority has been declared unconstitutional. And we're just taking a deep dive into understanding what really caused the court to do this. You know, sometimes I feel like in our country, it may look sometimes like the judiciary doesn't just want the government to thrive, you know, and you'll often get this argument by people in government, you know, why can't the judiciary just let us do our work? But remember, the purpose of the judiciary is to actually interpret the law. And where any action is taken that is contrary to the law, then that action has to be set aside. Now, one of the things that the Kenya Revenue Authority did is when they put out the advertisement, they said, to apply for this job, you have to be under 28 years. Now, the petitioner has argued that this is discrimination. And his argument is that the Constitution of Kenya defines a youth as someone who's between the age of 18 and 35. What happens then to the people between 29 and 35? What is the justification for locking them out? KRA in their response say that the position of graduate trainee is at an entry level, and essentially it is meant for fresh graduates. The presumption then would be most fresh graduates will graduate in their early to mid-20s, which is not unreasonable. However, the court, when considering this, says that there is always a possibility that there are people who, for one reason or another, will graduate in their 30s. Some will start off late in school. Some will have challenges in school and college with fees or illnesses, among other things. Indeed, there could be a case where people graduate in their 20s, but being unable to get employment well into their 30s, which means that if you're 29, you've never had a job, you can't apply for this position, yet it's meant for people who didn't have jobs or they're fresh graduates. The court agreed and said that that cap of 28 years old locks out a few deserving cases of fresh graduates in their early 30s, yet they are youth within the meaning assigned to that word under Article 260 of the Constitution of Kenya. Now, the most important thing we're getting from this decision is that the court is reminding us as a country and as a people that in Kenya, we have laws, and those laws are important, and those laws must be upheld. And one of those is that the principle of equality applies, and equality ranks higher than even the principle of merit. The principle of merit is subject to the equality principle. So what does this mean? Now, unfortunately, the court cannot find something is unconstitutional and then still go ahead and uphold it and say, okay, it's unconstitutional, but wacha iendelee mbele. No. In this case, what the court has said is that the recruitment of all those revenue service assistants was unconstitutional, and it offends the Constitution under Articles 10, 27, 56, and 232. Now, the court also held that the advertisement for 600 graduate trainees, to the extent that it limited by the Constitution and barred by this decision of the court from appointing staff at all levels until they have an ethnic diversity and regional balance policy. So if you don't have that, you're not recruiting anybody else. Ladies and gentlemen, this is a decision. So, if you run into people who are talking about this decision and what KRA did, Manze, you have points. All thanks to Power Radio and the work we're doing here. Well, that brings us to almost the end of the show. Remember, we're at the sidelines of the People Dialogue Festival happening at the University of Nairobi now. And how does this decision impact? Remember, under PDF, what we're talking about is how do we realize the rights under Article 43 of the Constitution of Kenya. This decision is important for the youth of this country because it means that, one, the court has recognized and affirmed that there is a requirement under the law that when people are being appointed to public service, regional balance, the issues of tribe, all these issues must be considered. No one group should have an unfair advantage of another group. This, of course, opens up an opportunity for more people from, unrepresented, underserved, from minority communities to get an opportunity to also work in government. But the second thing it does is that it affirms that a youth is a person between the ages of 18 to 35. If you want to get anyone out of that bracket of youth, you really need to have a very, very good justification for it. And the court will not allow it. But also the court affirms and understands that we live in a country where there are challenges. You could have graduated 5-7 years ago, but you still don't have a job. There is no reason why you should be denied an opportunity to have work in government on the pretext that these jobs are only for the youth and people who have not been hired. So, ladies and gentlemen, that brings us to the end of our show today. It's been a pleasure just talking to you. Please tweet us, or is it posting now or tweeting? On X or Twitter at Power Radio. And of course, for me, it's at Millennial Lawyer. We're going to be having more shows coming up in the afternoon. And as you know, this is Power Radio. We always have the best music. And we like to promote underground artists, people you probably never heard of before. Let's meet here, same place, same time, tomorrow. Coming up is Midnight Train by Sauti Soul.
Rocking on the midnight train. Oh Lord, steady rocking on the midnight train. To Zion, to Zion.
From sunrise to sunset, all day